Hello and welcome. I'm Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UFO, UAP news from everywhere and anywhere. Today, I'd like to talk about possible proof that a mothership has been orbiting the Earth for years and years. This has been documented by the Arecibo radio telescope located in Puerto Rico. It was highlighted in social media this past week because it seems to be scientific documentation that there may be an actual UAP out there that's been monitoring the Earth for years and years. Okay, so the Arecibo Observatory is located in Puerto Rico. In 2020, there was an accident that caused the radio telescope to be shut down. The footage that I'm going to show of the mothership was taken in 2017, so about 3 years before that accident. So on October of 2022, the National Science Foundation announced that radio telescope would not be rebuilt and that instead they would build an educational center at the site. Okay, so these are pictures of the before and after. This is the Arecibo radio telescope before the accident, and this is after, and you can see the hole there where the receiver fell into the dish. And you might be wondering, as I did, how a radio telescope can create images of, say, the object that I'm about to show that I'm calling a mothership. And the Arecibo Observatory was able to generate visual images using a technique called radio astronomy. And radio astronomy involves sending out radio waves from the observatory's transmitter and then receiving the waves that bounce back after hitting an object in space. By analyzing the time delay between the transmitted and received signals, scientists can determine the distance to the object. Also, the strength of the reflected signal provides information about the object's size and surface characteristics. Now, this technique was used to create detailed images of the object I'm about to show. And they also used it to create images of planets, asteroids, and other celestial bodies. But in this case, I'm going to show you a definite image that looks a lot like a UAP or UAP mothership. Okay, so this is taken from the Arecibo radio telescope website, and I got this, as I said, online from UFO Sightings Daily. And just some key facts before I show you the footage. This was taken in 2017, and back then they were calling it, and they still call it, a small asteroid whose orbit crosses the orbit of the Earth. NASA GPL has classified it as a potentially hazardous asteroid due to its specific close passes with Earth. And apparently NASA has had this documentation since 2003. So this object orbits the sun every 419 days, 5 kilometers in diameter, making it larger than 90% of asteroids, but tiny compared to large asteroids, very roughly comparable in size to a football field. And it has a list here of passes or distances from the Earth. The next time that it's supposed to come by the Earth is on January the 7th, 2025. Gonna go back a little bit. I can get a clear image. That's a lot clearer right there. You can clearly see that this is a spherical or saucer-shaped craft, and it's accompanied by these two smaller, what look like rectangular orbs, and seem to accompany the saucer-like craft with the mothership constantly. And one can only speculate, or social media here is saying that it's some sort of probe or defense system for the actual mothership. Going to move along here a bit.
single asteroid, and if you go and check, other asteroids will have that data. It's just, why is there no rotation data unless there is no rotation? This could be just holding still. It looks like a large metal disk with two little UFOs rotating around it for perhaps safety or some other reason. But this is the Arecibo telescope, okay, radio telescope, and it's a disk, a UFO disk with two rectangle-shaped craft going around it, orbiting around it, equally spaced. Now, you think, what are you talking about, Scott? There's no way this is possible. This is the original data here. You can see Arecibo observation data there. This is the Doppler radar, guys. Doppler radar in 2017. Now, they call it 2003 UX34, and some of the data is here. And this is a full view of it. I'm going to enlarge it and make it better, and I'm going to have just a screenshot of this part right there. Did you see that? Did you see that? Okay, now watch this. This is just absolutely amazing, guys. Now, this is the original web page on the Arecibo webpage site, and the data is great except for one thing. The data says that this is about half a mile across, but there's no rotation data. There's supposed to be rotation data on every single asteroid, and if you go and check, other asteroids will have that data. It's just, why is there no rotation data unless there is no rotation? This could be just holding still. It looks like a large metal disk with two little UFOs rotating around it for perhaps safety or some other reason. But look at these other data of the same object, So it's not the only data there. There's proof this object is there. Now, they do call it an asteroid, but as you can see, when I freeze frame it, and I'll show you in a few minutes, or you could just jump forward and see that screenshot. It's absolutely amazing. This is no asteroid. Now look at the data here. I highlighted it. It says a diameter 0.3 km within a factor of 2. That means within 100%. So it could be up to 0.62 km across, half a mile across, basically. And there's some other data up here, but there is no data. This is up to 310 meters across to a factor of 2, which means, wow, that's huge, guys. That's really big. There's a lot of other data here that you could look at if you're interested in.
110 meters, that is huge.
Here's another web page. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to show you the size, very important, the size of this object, the asteroid, the name. You see all this. The whole page is dedicated to it. This is a different page. And I'm going to show you where in our solar system this object is. Yes, I'm going to show you a live map of this object and how close it comes to Earth several times a year. Well, several times over several years. Now, here it is. The closest to Earth is going to be equal to 18 distances there, 18 million kilometers, sorry, in 2025. And I'm going to show you that on the map in just a second. Guys, this is just amazing. It's just mind-blowing. Here's the map. Let me make it full screen after I show you the comparison size. See this compared to the size of the Statue of Liberty. That is amazing. Of course, the shape is not the same. That might be the disk seen from the top. We're seeing it from the side on Doppler radar. Okay, so this thing is big. Oh my God, Mothership big. Now here we are on the map. I'm going to make it full screen in a second. This is also another map you could play around with. But this is the one that shows us the movement and comparison to Earth, the Sun, and other asteroids and planets in our solar system. And you see that this thing is flying around our solar system in its own unusual orbit. I mean, this is really, hey, it's out there. It is statistically impossible to have this kind of orbit in our solar system, and yet this exists. It has the orbit, and it has nothing that looks like an asteroid at all. Here it is. Here's the original GIF. It's a GIF. A GIF has made from several photos put together to make a movie. This is, you just pick up the GIF, drop it on your desktop, then you open it, and you could choose which one you want. And the very last one, this one is the Holy Grail. This one is the one you want to find, because this is not an asteroid at all. It's a mothership, a half-mile across in diameter mothership with two smaller UFOs, rectangle shape, flying around it. Is that amazing or what? Look at the detail. Look at that detail. Why aren't the other shots as clear as this? I think they accidentally left in, or maybe it's on purpose, one screenshot of the actual UFO. The other ones are so fuzzy, they thought, well, the public doesn't matter. They won't care. But they left in one. All we need is one piece of evidence to get the whole world knowing that aliens exist. This is that kind of evidence. This is, oh my God, it's a huge alien disc. Guys, this is just amazing. Make your own videos. Use my video on your website if you want. Share this video on all the social media sites, on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, whatever you use. Please share it. People need to know about this. This is evidence that aliens exist, and Arecibo telescope has had this data on their website for almost a decade and a half, actually. So, guys, the Holy Grail, it's out there. The Mothership. It's a half-mile across, and these two little rectangle ships are flying around it in their own little orbit, most likely protecting it at all times in case of something coming towards the ship. These objects can move in front of it and protect it. And surely there's some kind of energy shields around these ships. All three of those ships will have some kind of energy shields protecting them. And it's just amazing. This thing passes by Earth every few years. Like it's there to protect us. It's there watching over us. The United States government is trying to hide all this important information from the public. They think we can't take the truth? Hell, we can take the truth. We're going to drag the truth out by its hair. And we're going to drag it out in the front of public and give it to the public to decide for themselves what the hell is the truth. Scott C. Waring, UFO Sightings Daily.
Okay, so that was Scott from UFO Sightings Daily. Thank you very much. He makes a very good point there. That's hard evidence, especially in this time that we're going through where there's so much skepticism on the whole UAP disclosure issue. So many out there, politicians included, have created so much skepticism, saying that there's no evidence. Scientists like Avi Loeb have said that there's no hard evidence yet as to the whole UAP phenomenon. And yet here is hard evidence taken from the Arecibo radio telescope. And they've had this evidence for years and years. That still shot says 2017, but there are other shots that say 2003. So either 2 decades or at least a decade and a half, this information has been out there. And this object is a half a mile across, and it's been orbiting the Earth for years and years. So when the Pentagon says that there's no credible evidence, or it has no credible evidence of aliens or UFOs, here's a prime example. Arecibo, the people at Arecibo Radio Telescope Research Center had been holding on to this evidence for about a decade and a half. This is hard scientific evidence that can't be refuted. I'd like to move on and talk about scientists that claimed that she interviewed one of the surviving aliens from Roswell. And this happened years ago and happened in one of the sites at Area 51. And this is taken from one of my favorite online authors, Vicky Verma. And the title of his article is "The U.S. Scientists Saw Roswell Alien Survivor Who Revealed They Live Underground." So Dr. Shirley Wright, a former colleague of Albert Einstein, stated that she interviewed aliens found at the Roswell crash site in 1947. She noted that aliens are actually just humans, okay, but in advanced form. Heard that before. Heard that they might be us from the future. Okay, so Shirley Wright claimed to have been present when the U.S. government interviewed an alien survivor from the Roswell crash. According to Dr. Wright, the aliens said that not all of them live above the ground and that many reside underground on our planet. Okay. In 1993, an interview with Dr. Shirley Wright was made public where she claims to have witnessed the examination of Roswell UFO crash debris and encountered 9 alien bodies. The interview reveals detailed descriptions of aliens' physical characteristics, their suits, and their apparent ability to survive in Earth's atmosphere, while also highlighting the limited information they were willing to disclose about their lifestyle and reproductive methods. This is a picture of Dr. Shirley Wright. She was a dedicated teacher and scientist, PhD in physics, chemistry, and physical science. She was a chemistry professor at MDCC for over 50 years, and she was a student of Dr. Albert Einstein at Princeton. According to her, that her access to the Roswell incident was facilitated by her clearance, which was granted specifically for the purpose of examining the extraterrestrial crash. Describing the appearance of the aliens, Dr. Wright vividly recalled, quote, "They were very light, soft, a grayish green. They had a slim, lean physique, no nose, but markings where a nose opening would be, prominent eyes, and a mouth. They had no eyebrows, but they had ears and a very forked head," end quote. Additionally, Dr. Wright noted, quote, "Their eyes were enormous, the most obvious thing you'd see on their face. They were almost brown, black, very dark," end quote. Regarding their attire, Dr. Wright observed, quote, "They had suits on, very much like what we call suits. The fabric, however, was unfamiliar to me as a chemist. It didn't resemble any fabric I've recognized," end quote. Dr. Wright also touched on the aliens' apparent ability to adapt to Earth's atmosphere, stating, quote, "They could apparently survive in our atmosphere. They seem to indicate that the atmosphere was quite similar, although not identical to ours." How about that? Their atmosphere was similar to ours. This revelation hints at the remarkable adaptability of these beings and their advanced understanding of different planetary conditions. Okay, I'm going to play a short video.
Security clearance was respected. The only reason we could go.
Is that secure act, or did they deactivate it after?
It was immediately deactivated.
In the other experiences you've had, the other work you've done, did you ever have any other kinds of security clearances?
I've never had a necessity since to have a security clearance. No. I had a paper passed by the government on the ultimate structure of matter and National Academy of Science, but I have had no security clearance.
Do you remember what they called that clearance that you had? Did they name it for you?
I don't even recall that except a photo. I'd have to look that up. I don't know whether I even have a note on that.
The program that you're working on with Einstein, was it funded by the government or was it a university grant?
Grant to him at that university at that time to have outstanding students from around the country picked to work with him that particular summer in nuclear chemistry.
Did you have a title that was given to you while you worked there?
Special student.
Did he take any other students with him?
No, I was the only student.
Lucky you. Come on.
I was his pet, I have to admit that. I was. I have to admit that. There were 29 and
Were you there when,
the only girl either.
when the last alien died? Were you there at that point in time?
No, I wasn't. I was back at the motel in a city nearby, and I had been told, and I would be able to keep the being alive.
How many were there originally?
9. I saw 9. 8 bodies, and then later we communicated with that one, so there were 9.
And can you describe they were?
Oh, I sure can. I remember that very well. They were a very light, soft, gray, I'd call it grayish green, really. And they had a slim, lean, they had no nose, but they had markings where a nose opening would be. They had eyes and a mouth, no eyebrows. They had ears. They had a very forehead, and I'd say relative to the rest of their body. And the ones that I saw were approximately maybe 5 feet tall, 5 feet 5, something like that. They're small by what a man entered on Earth.
What did their eyes look like?
Their eyes were enormous. They were very prominent. They were the most obvious thing you'd see on their face.
Were there any pupils?
I noticed, but I never saw any pupils.
What color were they?
They were almost brown-black. They were very, very dark.
Were they all the same color in terms of the...
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Did they have any kind of clothing on?
Yes, they had suits on.
What did they look like?
Very much toward like what we call suits. The only thing was, though, that I didn't recognize the fabric. It didn't look like any fabric that I would know as a chemist, or even today that I would recognize.
Were there any kind of fasteners?
Buttons or zippers or ties or something? No, I didn't see any.
What about their shoes?
Their shoes were all, looked like they were connected. They were in one piece. And their hands, their limbs were covered, right down to what we would call the wrist.
What color was it, and was it any kind of trim?
You mean the suit itself? Oh, it had like an insignia on it. Insignia was almost in the middle of the garment. It wasn't off on the side like we would expect it to be.
Did they need any special breathing apparatuses, or did they appear to be breathing on their own?
And that was one of the amazing things that we were startled about, where they could apparently survive in our atmosphere, and they had apparently come such a long way.
Did they seem to indicate that the atmosphere is similar to ours, their breathing?
They asked us about that, and we asked them about it. Yes, they seemed to indicate, yes, that it was quite similar. It was not identical to ours, though, because they claimed they had made tests.
Did they tell you anything about their lifestyle was there?
We tried to find that out before we could. They really, we were very interested in not antagonizing them at all, so not to the point where we had them answer too many of ours, so we never really found that out. We just knew that they don't live all above ground, according to what they told us. A lot of theirs, what we would call subterranean.
Did they seem repelled by our appearance since they look so different?
Oh, they thought we were very odd.
Since you indicated that they were either androgynous or had no sex, did they mention how they procreated?
That was another thing which we asked them about, and we couldn't pin down either, but no, they indicated that they had this like we have at all.
Did they tell you how they reproduced? Did they refuse, or nobody probed them?
No, it's real that.
So they really were kind of limited in what they felt was appropriate to tell you?
I would say so, yes. I would say they were very careful what they revealed. Mm-hmm.
Did it seem like they wanted to have any kind of continual contact with this planet?
Very definitely, yes. However, they had already almost discounted this as a desirable place to come.
So we know that Albert Einstein actually met with these ETs, something that never has been made public before. And if you read between the lines, she's saying that she was brought there by Einstein and she had to have a special clearance that was immediately withdrawn afterward. So she was Einstein's pet, in her words. She was the only female student out of 29 in that program that summer. As far as the aliens themselves, she described them as being 5 feet tall, wearing a suit with an insignia not off to the side, but in the middle of the suit itself. She said that one of the things that they marveled at was the fact that these aliens could survive and breathe in our own atmosphere. As the interviewer pushes her for more answers and more information, Dr. Wright says that she didn't ask, or they did not ask, Einstein and her did not ask too many questions because they tried not to antagonize them. But they did find out that they live in a subterranean bases and that they are androgynous, have no sexual organs. That was a little vague, is the way she described them. She also said that the aliens were very careful as to what they revealed. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the article here. As far as the aliens' androgyny, the article says that in the realm of their lifestyle and reproductive methods, Dr. Wright admitted, quote, "We tried to find that out, but we were very cautious not to antagonize them. They didn't reveal much about it, but they mentioned living underground in what we call subterranean conditions," end quote. This suggests a unique aspect of their civilization and their preference for dwelling beneath the surface. Okay, so this is more evidence that aliens come from underneath the ground or underneath the sea. So if what Shirley said is right, it is more likely that the aliens come from somewhere under the sea or caves or something like that, rather than another planet. That pretty much reminds me of my interview with Leslie and Stephen Shaw, who wrote the book Who They Are and What They're Up To. And if you want to check that out, that was my podcast back in November the 12th of this year, 2023. The basis of their book is just that the aliens are not coming from somewhere else, that they've been with us and have been living underneath the earth or underneath the seas, underneath our feet for many, many years. This is also what Dr. Wright is alluding to. The article here says that, quote, "If humans on the surface are being reset to the Stone Age every several thousands of years, and they are more protected because they are underground, then perhaps their development in technology and intelligence is continuing on an upwards trajectory, whereas we're reset. It's also possible that maybe they aren't beings at all, but they can make you think you're seeing what you are not seeing." Not sure what that means, but the fact that if there is another race living underneath us and they can avoid cataclysms that have occurred over the millennia, that would not impede their progress, and they would just build on whatever knowledge and technology that they have, and they would be a lot more advanced than we are today. This theory about aliens being underwater entities is supported by several incidents and testimonies. For instance, there's a 2019 footage filmed on the USS Omaha that showed a UFO diving into the water off San Diego. There was also a retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Richard French, who served as a lead investigator of Project Blue Book in the 1950s, who claimed to have witnessed 2 aliens repairing their ship submerged underwater in Newfoundland. French testified about his experiences in front of former members of Congress at the citizen hearing in 2013, stating that he saw aliens and their crafts below the water surface. He described clear water that allowed him to observe the beings and their activities. Despite his role as a UFO debunker, French confirmed that it was a UFO sighting involving ETs. Other accounts support the idea of extraterrestrial presence in the ocean. Former gunner's mate John Bogman, stationed on the USS Carl Vinson in 2010, reported seeing a tic-tac shaped UFO underwater. He described a solid object that rapidly collapsed and disappeared as it descended into the depths. There have also been encounters with unidentified submerged objects, or USOs. The crew of a Soviet submarine witnessed 6 disc-like objects approaching their vessel at high speeds. Unable to escape, they were forced to surface. Through the periscope, they observed the objects emerging from the water and swiftly departing. There have also been classic alien abduction cases that involve encounters with underwater bases. Betty Andreasen Luca, for example, a Massachusetts woman, experienced multiple abductions and recalled being taken to a spacecraft flying over the ocean. The craft submerged into the water, entering a tunnel illuminated by light. Filiberto Cardenas claimed to have been taken to a secret underwater hangar witnessed by his friend's family. He described entering a tunnel at high speed underwater and arriving at a large hangar beneath the ocean. These incidents and testimonies provide evidence for the presence of extraterrestrial activity in the ocean and support the theory of aliens as underwater entities. So there's evidence here that Shirley Wright met with the survivors of the Roswell crash with none other than Albert Einstein. I believe that's credible evidence of NHIs, or non-human intelligences. I also think that the radio telescope capture that I showed earlier of a mothership that actually has an orbit around the Earth is even more solid evidence that UAPs exist. And still, we're being stonewalled by the government as to the fact that we're in contact with aliens, or aliens are here on Earth. I think it's high time that we had more transparency about the whole issue. And even though the Disclosure Act has been watered down, I still am encouraging, and others like Dr. Greer and Daniel Sheehan are encouraging the public to press Congress for more transparency and to not let this go. This is a good time to push Congress. If you go to the New Paradigm Institute, the website is newparadigmproject.org. This is an organization run by Dan Sheehan, the constitutional and civil rights lawyer that's stationed in Washington, and he's pushing for more transparency from the government. If you go to the newparadigmproject.org, it's very easy. The homepage has a button that says Take Action. You just press that, and it takes you to this other page that says Add Your Voice. And all you do pretty much is put in your name, street address, your email, and phone number. And then that brings you to another page that already has a message for your representatives. And it'll automatically send it to whatever representatives you have at the state and federal level. And I got my response right away within an hour or so, thanking me. So it's pretty easy to do. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed my coverage of the Arecibo radio telescope footage of the mothership that's been orbiting the planet. And I thought that it would be interesting to show Dr. Shirley Wright and her testimony as to how she met with the Roswell crash surviving aliens with Albert Einstein. I'm sending out all the love and good intentions, especially during this holiday time. The happiest of holidays to all, and sending out all my positive prayers and hopes for peace for all those in the Gaza area. I'm Al Barrows. This has been UFO Disclosure. Keep searching for the truth. Thank you. Thank you for listening to my podcast.